Hi green lovers. Well, it is the last week of April and it is warming up really nicely. Every day is getting warmer and warmer in my Northern California Zone 9B climate, and it is time to plant pumpkins. So I am going to be using a method called squash pit. I learned about it first from a person named David the Good. I will put a link to his website below in the description. The idea behind it is you dig a really, really deep pit, and into that you mix all kinds of garbage. Things like kitchen scraps, or put in some compost as well, and you want to add something that will absorb water. So things like shredded paper, shredded newspapers, phone books, what have you, they're all really great because guess what? Pumpkin is one of those few seeds, like any other member of the squash family, that does not require very finished compost. For those of you that have compost piles at home, you know what I'm talking about. You find pumpkin seeds and squash seeds and cucumber seeds growing in that thing all the time in fresh compost. So they also need a lot of moisture, and that is the reason for the newspaper and other sort of brown material that will absorb water. So my soil, as you can see here, I've started to dig the hole, is clayey soil. And this adobe clay will form literally a clay pot underneath if it doesn't have enough organic material mixed into it. So I'm going to mix that. I'm going to dig this pretty deep. I'm going to dig it maybe a couple of feet deep, and I'm going to mix all of these wonderful raw materials into it. You can see all kinds of living creatures already in it. You've got my little arch enemy, the roly-poly. He's a great decomposer, but he will also get my young plants. And then you've got things like worms, already crawling around in here. These are not red wigglers, but any earthworm is a good worm in my book. And when I put this unfinished material in here, red wigglers tend to gravitate to this place from I don't even know where. So build it and they will come. I'm going to go ahead and dig this pit as deep as possible. I'm going to mix in all of this raw material into it, and then I'm going to be planting my pumpkin seeds on a little bit of a hill because that will help keep the soil nice and warm while the seeds germinate. Okay, so I have finished digging the hole. I've got it to about 2 feet deep. Ideally you want to go even deeper if possible, but that's all the energy I have. So I am stopping right here. As you can see down there, those are roots, big thick roots that I believe come from, since they're red, I'm guessing they come from these redwood trees. I've got these tall redwood trees in my neighbor's yard, and they send roots into my backyard which will steal the nutrition from the plants. So I try and cut them, but at the end of the day, all these things have a symbiotic relationship, and I like everything to grow in harmony, so I don't stress out too much about the fact that I've got these redwood roots in my pumpkin pit here. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this up with all this goodness. There we go, a nice mushy kitchen scrap soup. I'm gonna throw in some compost. Now remember, pumpkins are heavy feeders and they need a lot of water to grow well. So at all points in time throughout their growing cycle, make sure you're keeping them well watered. And remember that the roots will grow down into this soup and it will start utilizing some of the nutrition down there. But you do want to add some nitrogen-rich fertilizer early in the cycle when it's growing. So I'm going to go ahead and fill up the rest of this pit with a combination of that clay soil there, as well as some of this compost. Throw in maybe a little more paper, just sort of layer it in there. And I'm going to build up a mound into which I'm going to be planting my pumpkin seeds. I'm going to be planting these crimson sweet watermelons. Now, they grow to about 25 pounds under ideal circumstances and take about 80 days, which is actually pretty good. I usually like to sow at least about 10 seeds because I imagine that 50% will get devoured by something or the other. Nature will take care of those, weaker plants. So I want at least about 5 or 6 seeds to grow. And so here is my little pumpkin hill. It is still not as warm as I would like it to be outdoors, but we will have to see. At least we don't have a danger of frost anymore. But I'm planting these about 3 inches or so apart. And now what I'm going to be doing is I am going to be putting this makeshift sort of cage. It's got plastic wrap around it, and I've wrapped that around some metal fencing. And if I don't do this, my kitty is going to think that I created a litter box just for her. And I don't want her to have any such false impressions. If you want to follow along to see how my pumpkin seeds are growing through the season, I will be making videos. Please consider subscribing. And until next time, live green and love your greens.